Jim Acosta can't get no break. I got two stories pulled up, and I could have pulled up more where the press is not too happy with Mr. Jim Acosta. The first story we have here from The Guardian. The Enemy of the People review. CNN's Jim Acosta takes Trump's bait again. They say his book is revealing on both sides of the battle. They're not all bad. I don't want to make it seem like they're just, bashing Jim Acosta relentlessly, but they're pretty critical of him. The other story from NPR, they have a rather neutral title, but they go into detail about where's the point I want to bring up? That basically he rants as though he's a rival athlete on the other side, and that the book is basically him just rehashing all of his old battles. It would seem like Jim Acosta wrote a book to get the final word. And it seems like the press isn't too interested in, or at least these outlets, promoting his book. Or at least they're critical of it, whatever. I mean, look, I'm not saying you shouldn't read his book. Maybe you should. But they talk about how he's cheering, how we beat Trump and things like that. Journalists shouldn't do this kind of, shouldn't be engaged in this kind of behavior. But let's read. And we'll start with the Guardian, Acosta taking Trump's bait. And what that means. Maybe it's positive. I don't know. But before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There is a monthly donation option, crypto, a physical address, but of course, the best thing you can do is just like and comment on the video, share and subscribe. The engagement really helps. From The Guardian, they say, in Donald Trump's self-manufactured reality, disdain for journalists and affinity for autocrats are among few constants. By the same measure, the president craves the adulation of the press the way a junkie hankers for a wake-up fix. Trump denounces the New York Times as failing and the enemy of the people, but yearns for Maggie Haberman's approval. No mommy issues there. Enter CNN's Jim Acosta, Trump's on-air sparring partner. Jim Acosta may want to think that, but Jim Acosta is just a grandstanding loudmouth. With a book entitled ... The Enemy of the People. Trump's presidency is about trashing constitutionally imposed checks and balances, dumping on the First Amendment, sating the cravings of social conservatives, and race baiting. Acosta's brand is about getting into Trump's face and under his skin. Acosta cops to grandstanding, showboating, and on occasion opting for the bait. For such efforts, the White House stripped Acosta of his press pass, which was restored after a successful legal challenge. They say his book sheds real light on the West Wing funhouse, and it explains how the enemy of the people emerged as a mainstay of Trump's lexicon. Blame it on Stephen Bannon. Acosta also catches Jared Kushner, the first son-in-law, lying through his teeth from the get-go. So again, I want to stress that it's not like they're just putting reviews out saying Jim Acosta is bad, because of course they wouldn't. But I think it's really important to highlight how this book from Jim Acosta is him taking the bait. Absolutely taking the bait. And I guess it took him this long to read it. But Acosta is, in my opinion, just trying to generate press attention off of Trump's back. He is akin to the reaction channels on YouTube, right? If you're not familiar with what these are, people will watch someone else's video and then comment on those videos and react to them. It's also, there's also a phenomenon on YouTube where you have these YouTubers who are obsessed with other YouTubers instead of bigger issues like the president and CNN. While I certainly will be critical of Jim Acosta, he's on CNN with he's got 1 million plus followers. I don't even know how many followers he has, but he's a big newsworthy personality. He's done this off of the back of legit journalism and by just fighting with Trump. Is Jim Acosta newsworthy? No. Jim Acosta is using Trump to inflate himself. And that's why I think it's important to point out that's what he is. I do think, I don't want to read through the whole review. Let's wrap up what The Guardian says. Things will get worse before they get worse. Sure, whatever. They're not even talking about Acosta at the end. But let's talk about what NPR says. Because I find NPR's commentary really, really interesting. And I just pressed the wrong button. There we go. So in this story, it's, again, not completely negative. Here's what they say from NPR. As the most visible reporter to regularly spar with the president, CNN White House correspondent Jim Acosta is a disputed icon. The president has called him rude, terrible, and fake news. To many on the right, he represents deep media bias. Yes. To some on the left, he represents media pushback against Trump's frequent lies. In his daily life, he is subject to near constant abuse, insults, and threats, along with some praise and a lot of selfie requests. Yes, that's what he did and why he did it. He wanted to make himself famous. However, they say, more telling perhaps than either the praise or the insults is a friendly interaction Acosta recounts in his new book, The Enemy of the People. Acosta was covering a Trump rally in South Carolina in 2018 when a Trump supporter came into the press pen and asked to borrow a chair. Acosta offered his, They had a pleasant chat, and the man mentioned how odd it was to see Acosta reciting the Pledge of Allegiance and singing the Star-Spangled Banner. I thought to myself, yes, I know the pledge and the national anthem. I'm an American, Acosta writes. But the moment spoke volumes. Members of the press have been so savaged by Trump and his propagandists in the media that journalists seem almost foreign or anti-American to his supporters. This is actually really interesting outside of the general criticism they have for him, in that you can see how he views the world through this weird lens of nonsense. They actually live in this weird world where he thinks it's a bunch of propaganda and just crazy insanity. Two worlds, right? They say, the enemy of the people would have been a good place to ask why Trump has succeeded in this project. But Acosta used it as an opportunity to relitigate his spats with the White House rather than to meaningfully interrogate the cultural shift that left huge numbers of people despising and fearing the press. Thank you, NPR. In his most famous confrontation with the president, Acosta refused to cede the microphone to another reporter during a press briefing. An intern tried to take it, Acosta held onto it, and the White House revoked his automatic access, while also publicizing a doctored video suggesting he had somehow pushed or hit the intern. Full stop! It says he had not. Not true! My God. I don't want to relitigate this. But in the video, what I think happened is she grabs the mic and he pushes her. He's not hitting her, he's not shoving her, he was moving her, he was like kind of pushing her arm away, but she was holding on, so it made a jerking motion. Now you've got people on both sides saying he did or he didn't, and it's like, dude, a doctored video, oh my God. This is like, how we recover from this world of like two people living on two different planets, I have no idea. They say a legal battle for access followed, and Acosta's pass was restored. The enemy of the people gives his side of the fight, along with the history of his other interactions with the president, and how he has come to believe in fighting fire with fire. In the enemy of the people, Acosta sounds less like a reporter than a rival athlete. We beat Trump, he remembers shouting after the lawsuit. Later, he writes the Trump people had clearly gotten spanked. The tone throughout is jocular and self-congratulatory. Describing a Trump confrontation, he writes that another reporter was the real hero of the news conference for defending Acosta. Something you only say if you believe you are, in fact, the apparent and obvious hero. Oh, that's a really, really good dig. By him saying the real hero was this person, he actually thinks people view him as a hero. God, man, this guy is awful. I don't believe reporters are supposed to be the story. That's how I was trained. But at that press conference, I had faced a choice. Do we just absorb Trump's attacks? Yes, please. Or do we push back and stand up for ourselves? This feels like an artificial distinction. Interesting. Reporters become part of the story when the president attacks them, but in between absorbing abuse and hitting back is another option. Fighting for access, challenging the president on lies, and reporting the facts the way you would with any other story. Acosta seems to believe that the attacks give him special dispensation to offer his personal opinions, and that doing so is even an act of bravery or public service. Wow! NPR. Woo! Spot on. Spot on. There is a difference between saying that Trump encouraged violence against protesters and referring to the toxic Trump effect on our national discourse. I agree with that. I think, Trump changed the way the debates happen, for sure. Or between saying that Sarah Sanders often attacks the press for accurate reporting, and Sarah Sanders said some of the vilest, most un-American stuff that has ever been said in the White House briefing room. Opinion. Oh, they've actually broken up the opinion versus fact, I see. In other words, Acosta has become a commentator, not a reporter. Oh, I was going to yell, but the microphone's right in front of me, so I'm not going to yell in your ears, but thank you, NPR. NPR coming up with the facts. In a CBS interview over the weekend, Acosta spoke about the dangers of Trump's rhetoric about journalists. An angry Trump supporter mailed pipe bombs. Acosta explained to CNN and other Democratic targets, yes, you can't take one crazy guy and then condemn everybody. I wouldn't do that to Islam. I wouldn't do that to Christianity. I wouldn't do that to social justice activists. And I wouldn't do that to Trump supporters. It's insane. Double standards, please. And other Democratic targets was clearly a slip of the tongue. CNN is not affiliated with any party. Acosta meant perceived Democratic targets. But the mistake is nonetheless telling. Acosta has allowed Trump to set the terms of engagement. Trump paints the media as the opposition, and Acosta has accepted the mantle without wondering what he might be giving up in return. He doesn't care what he's giving up. He's a bad person, and he is not a journalist. This is most apparent when he uses Trump's tactics to justify his own combativeness. I don't recall Trump ever apologizing for his behavior, and why should he? Hey, if they can do it, my thought was, why can't we? Great. Thank you, Acosta. You know what? You don't see me getting a White House press pass and going down and doing the same thing. Why? Because I understand what I'm doing here. I understand I'm commenting and giving my opinion. And if I ever did go down, I would ask some basic questions and I'd be done with it. You can see my reporting on Subverse. It's pretty dry. You can see the reporting I do on my main channel when I did the story about the left-wing activist's email to Chase Bank. I keep it dry on purpose, and I try to be tempered and rather tepid. Jim Acosta says, well, if he's doing it, why can't I? Oh, because we're not in second grade, dude. He writes at another. But I can think of a lot of reasons, starting with the use of the words we and they. Wow, NPR, who wrote this? I'm going to give you a special... Annalisa Quinn, outstanding. Thank you for calling out Jim Acosta for what he is. You can like what he does, that's fine, but to call him a journalist is just absurd. He is a commentator, not a reporter, and he is putting himself in this. Enough. Stick around, I got some more segments coming up in a few moments, and I will see you shortly.